Hello, welcome to today's hormone chat. I'm Dr. Lisa Brown. We are streaming in our Facebook group called the 40s Hormone Fix. If you are not a part of this community, please join. If you are, you know that I have been really encouraging you all to use this group as a resource. How are you feeling? What's going on in your perimenopausal or hormonal world? What questions do you have? I'm here to support you on this journey. So use us as a resource. And, you know, typically, if you have a question about something, someone else will as well. So definitely share that with the group. If you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel. Again, this is a great place for women to go to learn different topics about what is happening to your body in perimenopause. My guess is that you have never really been taught or trained or went through any type of coursework about what is happening in perimenopause. We had a small glimpse, probably in your health class in elementary school about puberty, like what happens when our hormones go up, but never do they teach us about what happens when our hormones go down. Probably because for a man, it's not as significant as a woman. Yes, I said it. So something that is significant to just women kind of gets pushed to the back burner. So, but anyway, we are here to learn about our bodies and empower ourselves with that wisdom so that we can then empower each other, our friends, our neighbors, our daughters, etc. So today, we're going to talk about, I get a lot of general questions, way more often than I get very specific hormonal questions. And oftentimes a lot of the questions that I get is simply that I have this, fill in the blank. Could this be perimenopause? Is this perimenopause or is it stress? Is it something else? Who knows? So we're going to talk some more about just the vast array of symptoms in perimenopause. And then I also want to help you understand a little bit about why those symptoms are so vast, because I think that helps understand and it helps you kind of know what to expect when you understand the why a little bit better. So when we think about perimenopause or menopause, we think about hot flashes and irregular periods. Like for most of us, those are the two things that come to mind. Maybe night sweats, but hot flashes, tired, hot, grumpy, maybe irregular periods. But there is so much more to it than that. You may be someone who struggles so severely in perimenopause, yet you never have one single hot flash, never have one single night sweat, never have any temperature issues. Maybe your periods even stay consistent. You can be that person who never has any of those things, and perimenopause is quote unquote really hard for you. Unfortunately, years pass and you may never know that that's what perimenopause is. Or a woman who was not here trying to learn and grow in her understanding of herself may not realize that it's perimenopause that was causing that. She might struggle through that. She might end up on an antidepressant, an anti-anxiety medication. She may end up making a decision about her marriage or her career that she otherwise wouldn't have if she had realized, whoa, I am being severely impacted by my hormones and I'm not even realizing it. Hormones are very, very powerful. So, what are some other symptoms of perimenopause that are good for you to know so that if you are experiencing them, you don't just brush them off, or you don't, attribute it, no, this is just stress, this is something else, okay? So, other symptoms that happen quite often in perimenopause that you might not think of are things like an increase in allergies, right? I might sound kind of stuffy right now. I think I might actually have a little bit of a cold, but an increase in allergies is one of the lesser known things that is actually very common in perimenopause. Another thing that kind of goes alongside this is itching, skin itching, dermatitis, okay? Feeling itchy. Those things are quite common in perimenopause. And we don't know that. Maybe we think it's something else. We go to the doctor, we end up on, whatever singular allergy medications, who knows? So those are things that are typically more manageable, maybe not something that you would really seek medical care for. It's just more bothersome. But I think it's helpful to know some of those lesser known things. So you're not just like, what is this? Like, am I allergic to something? Like maybe it's my bedding, maybe I need to change my fabric softener, who knows? It might be your hormones. My clients struggle with that a lot, the itchiness and the increase in allergies or allergy type symptoms. So the runny nose, stuffy nose, congestion. And the link with those two things in perimenopause is actually the estrogen component. So I'm going to go off on that tangent just a bit here for a moment. Estrogen is kind of like your hormone queen, right? She's just the queen bee. She's just the ruler of all. There's, other hormones that are powerful and are great and do such wonderful things in our body. But the reason I say that about estrogen in particular is because estrogen is involved with hundreds of reactions that occur in your body on a daily basis, literally hundreds. And we tend to compartmentalize estrogen with reproduction and ovaries or menopause. Like we tend to only lump estrogen into those kind of women specific categories or reproduction related categories. But you have estrogen, again, all over, everywhere in your body likes estrogen. When your estrogen is floating through your body, every single tissue, for the most part, is taking a bite of it, right? So it's floating around and they're all taking a chunk out of it. They're taking a bite. They all want a piece of that estrogen because they need it for their day-to-day chemical reactions and operations within your body. So I think that kind of helps open up your mind, or hopefully it opens up your mind a little bit to seeing like this is not just limited to, hot flashes, night sweats, cramps, maybe even mood swings. This is not just limited to that. This is impacting me all over. So some other symptoms that are really common in perimenopause and not so much talked about are the mood swings. And I want to emphasize the swings because, we might hear like, oh, I'm emotional, I'm crying more often, or, there's a difference between being depressed or irritable or emotional across the board. Not that that's good either, but there's a difference between that kind of being your norm and then these up and down mood swings. So feeling happy, loving life 1 minute, and the next minute feeling like you're on PMS on steroids, like you're PMSing on steroids. So those up and down mood swings are actually a lot more common than you might think of during perimenopause. Some other things that we don't talk as much about are the cognitive symptoms, so the brain-related changes. Brain fog is very, very common. So this one sneaks up on us for sure. And this one we do say, oh, I'm just getting older. Oh, I'm just getting older. And it's not actually that you're getting older. It's what's changing in your body as you're getting older. And so as our hormones are changing, as we're getting older, that is significantly linked to cognitive changes. So by that, I mean brain fog, forgetting things more easily than you used to the point where it actually can, I've known women where it was impacting their work productivity. And once we were able to work on their hormone ins and outs, as I call them, moving their hormones in and out of their body, we were able to see improvement in those cognitive symptoms. So clarity, remembering things, feeling just sharper and more crisp. Those are all perimenopausal symptoms that we tend to brush off and not think so much about. And let me also add to this, while these things are quote unquote normal or can happen in perimenopause, or I'm going to say, why, yes, they're common, they're not normal. So they're common but they shouldn't have to happen. They don't necessarily have to happen. Usually, these symptoms that we're experiencing, it is the hormone changes, yes, but it's also everything else going on in our lives and in our body that is contributing, that is like this big double whammy in our bodies that makes our symptoms so much worse than they need to be. And I want to I'm actually going to share a study that I have pulled up right now, because this was a study based, because I don't know, I think this diagram is cool to see. And this was published in 2015, so it's not brand new, but it's called Perimenopause as a Neurological Transition State. And I'm going to share my screen so you can see this, because like I said, my head's a little stuffy and I feel like this is going to help me convey my point here. So, all right. So you can see this screen here. This is a diagram from that study. Okay, so this women going in perimenopause, okay, there's their brain. What this study is showing is that in here, of those women in perimenopause, 80% were symptomatic. So 80% had symptoms, 20% had none. So that's saying if you are in perimenopause right now, or if you're, when you go through perimenopause, 8 out of 10 women will have symptoms versus 2 will have none. So your chances of having hormonal symptoms are much higher than your chances of having none. And then you see here, of that 80%, 70% did have hot flashes or hot flushes. Those terms are used interchangeably. 70% did have those. And then a smaller percent, only 30% of that group, so to make up 100% of that 80, only had hot flashes, right? So a small window of these women only had hot flashes. All these other women had other studies as well, okay? And in this particular study, you had to have hot flashes to be counted as symptomatic. That was kind of like the hallmark symptom. But again, you don't have to have hot flashes. You don't always have hot flashes. But of those women who did, look at all these other symptoms they had as well. So some had cognitive dysfunction, that memory loss, brain fog, forgetfulness. Some had cognitive dysfunction and insomnia. Some had it with mood changes. Some had all three. Some had insomnia and suicidal ideation. So, we'd have to dig into the specifics of how they scaled that in this study, but depression, mood changes. So the point here is that very rarely was hot flashes the only symptom of perimenopause. The overwhelmingly majority of women who were in this study had other symptoms as well. And it's important to me that you are informed and aware of those things, and keep perimenopause and keep your hormones as the forefront of your mind, because I know that my hormones have caused such intense mood swings for me that I have made poor decisions based off of those moments that I wouldn't have made otherwise. And had I known how significantly I was being impacted by my hormones, I'd like to think that would have made a difference in how I reacted. I still think that same thing still holds true when I'm interacting with my children. I know that I need to focus on my hormone balance because I am very, what I call, hormone sensitive. The great, probably the 20% who didn't have any symptoms in that study are probably the hormone non-sensitive. But, I know that I need to focus on my hormone ins and outs and my hormone balance so that I stay even keeled for my family. Because if I don't, I will act a way that I don't want to act, right? And so that is motivation to me. So just know that there are unseen or untalked about symptoms or ways that you might be feeling that could be your hormones. And you know what that means, right? When there's other things, or when we can figure out a cause, if we figure out a clear link to your hormones, you're in perimenopause, there's improvements we can make to your hormone production, even though you're in perimenopause. that can be a really big game changer for you. So if we can determine it's your hormones, then we can impact it. So don't suffer in silence. Like I always say to you guys, speak up about how you're feeling, send me a message, post here in the group. Again, I get this question several times a week. I'm experiencing X. Is this perimenopause? Is this my hormones? I don't know if this is stress or if it's something else. I went to my doctor and they said to stress less. So if you're one of those people wondering, I have blank, is this my hormones? Let's talk about it, because there's a yes or no answer to that, right? And let's figure out if it is your hormones, because then we can impact it. So reach out to me, post things here in the feed. Thank you guys for your attention today. I hope you learned something, and I will talk with you soon.